Problem number 2. Went through this U.S. Navy Tables Revision 7. Our first dive, leaving the surface at 6 o'clock, leaving bottom at 6:30. Depth this time is 150 feet. Let's first check out the no decompression time limits. We can see that 150 feet, there's an 8-minute no decompression limit, so this is going to be a required in-water decompression dive. First dive, as prior, we're going to use the City College dive chart. So let's run through the example here. We're going to plug in our depth, feet of seawater here. No decompression time limit, 8 minutes, as we just looked at. Leaving surface at 6 o'clock, leaving bottom 6:30. Bottom time 30 minutes. Time to leave bottom, of course, 6:30. Reaching the bottom 6:02. That's according to the Navy specified rate, as we talked about previously, of 75 feet a minute. Not a useful number, dictated by the diver's ears. Okay, we're going to write down our stop schedules. We need to find those, so we come down on the standard air decompression table, and we're looking for 150 feet for 30 minutes. Bottom times are listed on the left, and we can see that we have required water stops. This is air only decompression. We're not doing in water air or oxygen, and we're not doing surface decompression. We can see that if we do this dive and use in water air decompression, we have to stop at 40 feet for 4 minutes, 7 minutes at 30 feet, and 45 minutes at 20 feet, and then we can come directly to the surface without running the risk of having decompression sickness. The repet group for this dive would be O. Not that we would want to repet, but the Navy allows us or assigns us a repetitive group designation. We're going to use that group for the second, third, and fourth dives. Again, there'll be 4 dives total in this example, and they're for charting purposes only. In no way would we want to make a series of dives like this in reality, as it's not recommended to do repetitive dives, especially after a decompression dive. Okay, so here we go. We're going to write in our stop times: 150 for 30, 40 for 4, 30 for 7, and then 20 for 45. We're going to come to the surface directly after that. All of the ascent rates are at 30 feet per minute. So we're going to focus here on the stop times. I'm not going to focus too much in this example on filling out the chart. If you're interested in learning more about that, look at the first example where we spend a little bit more time discussing filling in the blanks. Nonetheless, we'll go over some of it. Okay, leave the bottom at 6:30. We're now traveling up to 40 feet at 30 feet a minute. That's 110 lineal feet, or 220 seconds. We're going to take that number and we're going to round it up to 4 minutes, and that is the time we begin our first stop. So this is an important number. We're going to take that number and round it up. 220 seconds is equal to 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So we're going to round that up to 4 minutes and start our decompression time from there. If we reach there at 6:34, add 4 minutes to it, we will leave at 6:38. 6:38. Now notice I've drawn a line between the reach stops, in between 10-foot stops, because that number is not really important to us. The Navy allows us to include ascent times between 10-foot stops as part of decompression time. That is important for us to understand. As soon as we move from 40 feet, we are on our 30-foot stop, so the clock is ticking for that 7-minute stop. If we leave at 6:38, there's 7 minutes of stop time. We'll leave there at 6:45. In reality, we would reach our next stop 20 seconds later. We're traveling 10 feet times 2, that's 20 seconds. That's what time we should reach there, but we don't include that as part of the decompression data that we're writing on the chart. So leave at 6:45, and you're going to reach there, and you're going to leave that 20-foot stop 45 minutes later at 0730. 0730, we're going to travel 20 feet to the surface. That's 40 seconds. We should reach there in the perfect world of ascending at 30 feet per minute. At 7:30 and 40 seconds, we're going to take that number and round it up to begin our surface interval at 7:31. So at 7:31, we are an O diver, as we looked at over here on the tables. Navy assigns us a repetitive group designation of O. We have no repet group going in since this is the first dive of the day. There is no residual nitrogen. So we'll put that O in there. Our bottom time is 30 minutes. There is no RNT. And our total bottom time is going to be 30 minutes. So we're reaching the surface at 7:31. Begin our surface interval at 7:31 as an O diver. Now, total time of dive is leave surface to reach surface. We left at 6 o'clock. We reached at 7:31, so it's an hour and 31 minutes. So at 7:31, we are an O diver, and now we'll scroll and do the second dive. Second dive, I'm telling you that we're going to leave the surface at 2200. That's 10 o'clock at night. And we're an O diver at 7:31 in the morning, so we have a significant time to off gas. Actually have 14 hours and 29 minutes. That's the difference between 7:31 and 2200. Subtracting time, you want to make sure you recognize that there are 60 minutes in an hour, and the difference between the two would be 14 hours and 29 minutes. So I have to pick a new repetitive group during this time on the surface, this 14 hours. The residual nitrogen in the diver's body is decreasing. We're going to make a repetitive dive, but we have to assign a new letter group to quantify the diver's nitrogen. So an O diver for 14 hours and 29 minutes puts us all the way over here in the A category. The least RNT letter group out of all of them. Not quite totally off gas, not quite clean, but it is still a repetitive dive nonetheless. So 1429 fits here between 1238 and 1458. So I am an A diver. This A diver is now going to 120 feet, and we want to make this a no stop dive, a no decompression dive. In order to do that, we have to figure out what a no decompression dive is, define it. Come back here to the first table, 120 feet. The no decompression limit is 15 minutes. We know that we still have RNT, albeit not that much in the A category, but we're going to 120 feet, and we have to account for that. This is important for us to understand. Come back here to the residual nitrogen timetable, go down to where A diver, that's our repetitive group going in, come down to 120 feet, and it tells us that we have 5 minutes of RNT still in our body from the prior dive, or 5 minutes of RNT at 120 feet. That is only for that depth schedule. So we're going to write that in here in our RNT space here on the chart. Now, if we just looked at and defined the no decompression limits as 15 minutes for 120 feet, we cannot exceed that number for total nitrogen. I'm asking you what the maximum actual bottom time is going to be. Well, if you have 5 minutes against you already before you get in the water, and 15 is the limit, the maximum you could stay underwater physically would be 10 minutes, the difference between the two. You add your RNT and your actual dive time together to get your equivalent single dive time that you must use to decompress and pick your schedule according to. That happens to be 120 for 15 if it exists on the chart. There is a 120 for 15. Looking at the bottom times over here, 10, 12, and 15. Right on the end, as we predicted. And you're going to scroll straight up, put you on the surface as an F diver. You still have F amount of nitrogen in your system accumulated from this dive and the subsequent dive, or excuse me, the prior dive to that. If we left the surface at 2200, our actual bottom time is 10 minutes. We should write that down here in this space here, 10 minutes to show our bottom time. That's not written here on the key, but it should be. Add 10 minutes to your 2200. That's what time you're going to leave the bottom. And remember, Navy definition of bottom time is leave surface to leave bottom to make a direct descent to the surface. It's not total water time. Leaving the bottom at 2210, and we're going to travel 120 lineal feet. Depth times 2 equals ascent time in seconds. That's 240 seconds, 60 seconds in a minute. Divide that, it comes out to a nice even round 4 minutes, and we can use that as our ascent time. 2210 plus 4 minutes puts us on the surface at 2214 as an F diver. That's all I need to use. Take this information right here, and we're now going to transfer it to the beginning of our surface interval on dive number 3. Scrolling down to dive 3. We put 2214 as an F diver here, and I'm asking you to plan a no decompression dive to 65 feet, and I'm telling you that you're going to have a task to do that takes 40 minutes. I want you to tell me what the minimum surface interval is just for charting purposes here. A lot of students struggle with this getting started, and my advice to you is to figure out and define what a no decompression dive is to 65 feet. Well, quite obviously that would be a 70-foot table, because we must take the number and round it up. There is no 65-foot depth, so we round it up to 70 feet. I am telling you that you're going to be in the water for 40 minutes actual. The no decompression time limit, or total nitrogen or equivalent single dive limit, is 48 minutes. That's the total of the residual plus the actual. We know we have residual. If our limit is 48, and I'm telling you you have to be in the water for 40 minutes, that only leaves you a maximum of 8 minutes residual nitrogen time on the 70-foot column. So we have to wait until we see 8 minutes or less residual nitrogen in the 70-foot depth category on our residual nitrogen timetable. Let's take a look. 70 feet. RNT times are listed here to the right. We're going to work horizontally. We see that we have some pretty high numbers here, 83, 77. They get smaller as we scroll across. We have to wait until we have 8. It happens to fit right on the A category. If the shoe fits, wear it. 8 minutes, we can definitely use that. We don't have to round it. And it happens to be an A category. So we have to wait until we are an A diver before we can make this jump. If we're an F diver at the beginning, we're looking for the intersection of F and A. Here is F, and here is A over here. So we scroll and work against the lines, and the difference between F and A, the minimum surface interval, happens to be 4 hours and 49 minutes right here. 4:49 and 7 hours and 8 minutes. That would put me in an A category, but I'm asking you for the minimum just for charting purposes, so we're going to use it. 4:49 is our minimum. 22:14 plus 4:49 is going to be 03:03 in the morning. So that's what time the diver would leave the surface as an A diver. That diver does have RNT going to 70 feet. And we saw previously that that diver is going to have 8 minutes. We're on bottom for 40 minutes actual. We write that here and here, 2 spots. Actual bottom time, the actual clock time we're going to spend in the water. The total nitrogen that the diver has in their body for this dive, the schedule we must pick to decompress according to, is 48 minutes. This is very important for us to understand. The diver is not decompressing according to 70 for 40. They're decompressing according to the sum of the residual from the prior dive and this dive, 48 minutes. So 70 for 48, I'm looking for that schedule on my no decompression schedule, and I'm going to pick a repet group. Is there a 70 for 48? It's right on the max as we predicted. Happens to be a K diver. So we write K at the top of our chart here, at the end of our third dive, and we have to figure out what time we're leaving bottom. 303 plus 40 minutes. 40 minutes we're going to add to it, not 48, because the 48 includes tissue time or theoretical time in our body. Here is the actual clock time. So 3:43, we leave the bottom. We're traveling 65 lineal feet. Depth times 2 equals ascent time in seconds. That's 130 seconds, or 2 minutes and 10 seconds if we're traveling perfectly. So we're going to take that number. If we reach there 2 minutes and 10 seconds later, actually, we're going to round that number up to start the diver's surface interval. And for charting purposes, we'll write 346, 343 plus 3 minutes is 346. And that information there is all I need to transfer over for my fourth dive. 346, I'm a K diver. Now dive number 4, I'm going to write that information right here at the beginning of my surface interval. Now I'm going to give you information and ask you to plan a no decompression dive after a surface interval of 10 hours, and you have a particular task to do that takes 30 minutes. I want to know what is the maximum depth that you can go to do this task. Make it a no decompression dive. Again, just like the prior example, this one tends to confuse students where to begin with this. And what I tell everybody to do, the first step is we can pick a repet group. So I'm telling you, you're on the surface for 10 hours. If you're a K diver for 10 hours, we can look over here at our surface interval credit table. A K diver for 10 hours is going to put us in the water, back in the water, as an A diver. Now this A diver is going somewhere where the sum of the residual nitrogen that they have, this A residual nitrogen, we haven't quantified it in minutes yet. We're going to do that in a second. When we add that residual nitrogen time to the actual dive time of 30 minutes, that number cannot exceed the no decompression limit for whatever particular depth I choose. We want the deepest depth to not exceed the no decompression limits. So I tell students, easy way to begin this problem is to start using the 60-foot dive column. Get your information, add those numbers together, get your RNT, and make sure that it's not going to exceed the no decompression limit. If it doesn't go deeper, 60 feet is 63 minutes no decompression. That is the new number for revision 7 for the Navy. It used to be 60 for years, but we're still going to start at 60 feet. So let's take a look. An A diver is going down to 60 feet. So we scroll back to our RNT timetable. An A diver going down to 60 feet will have 9 minutes of residual nitrogen time. We just defined the limits of a 60-foot dive as 63 minutes. 9 minutes plus 30 minutes is 39 minutes. Can we make that dive? Yes, we can, because it's less than 63 minutes total nitrogen time. So we go deeper. Let's go to 70 feet. 70 feet has a no decompression limit of 48 minutes. Come back. Let's check an A diver going to 70 feet. They have 8 minutes. 8 plus 30 is 38 minutes of total nitrogen or equivalent single dive time. Can we dive to 70 for 38? Absolutely we can, because we just defined the limits of the dive to 70 feet for 48 minutes. So what do? Let's go deeper. 80 feet has a total maximum equivalent single dive time of 39 minutes. Let's check how much RNT we'll have at 80 feet. The numbers are going to change, and I have 7 minutes of RNT. 7 plus 30 is 37, and that happens to be less than the 39 minutes that we just looked at here. So will that work? Yes. Now let's go deeper. We go 10 feet deeper. 33 minutes. 90 feet for 33 minutes. Well, we're staying underwater for 30, but we got to check the residual at 90 feet because we're still an A diver. 90 feet has 6 minutes of RNT. 6 plus 30 is 36. That exceeds the no decompression limit at 90 feet for 33 minutes. Therefore, the max depth that we can travel on this dive is 80 feet. Now we'll go ahead and chart that. We write 80 feet over here to the left. Put a little line, depth on the outside, time on the inside. Our actual dive time, we write it here on the bottom, on the inside of the chart. Over here under actual dive time or actual bottom time. And a diver going to 80 feet, we're going to add in the residual nitrogen time. We'll come back and we're going to check it again. An A diver going to 80 feet is going to have 7 minutes right here. Plug that in. This number right here, equivalent single dive time, is the sum of the residual plus the actual, or 37 minutes. That is the number that I must use to decompress according to. Is there an 80 for 37 on the tables? Let's take a look. Come back to our no stop table. 80 for 37. There's an 80 for 36 and an 80 for 39. According to table rules, we're going to take that number and round it up. So we'll use the 80 for 39 category. 80 for 39 puts us on the surface as a J diver. A J diver on the surface. Put that number on there, circle it. I'm telling you, you're on the surface for 10 hours. You transferred your information at 3:46 in the morning as a K diver. So you left the surface at 13:46, a little bit before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to add the actual dive time here, the 30 minutes, not the 39 minutes, because that includes tissue time or theoretical time, residual nitrogen time. It's not actual clock time. 13:46 plus 30 minutes is 13:76 or 14:16 clock time, military clock time. Leaving bottom at 14:16. We're traveling 80 lineal feet. Depth times 2 equals ascent time in seconds. 160 seconds is 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Round that number up to 3 minutes right here. Add it to your leave bottom time, reaching the surface at 14:19 as a J diver. And you're done.